All right, so if you're ever wondering to yourself, what is the difference between a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA? Or you're thinking to yourself, what are the specific rules behind a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA? Or you're even thinking to yourself, what is this tax-free retirement strategy that everybody seems to be talking about right now? In the body of the video that I'm about to jump into, you're going to learn a lot. Make sure you share, like, and of course, subscribe to the video. Let's get started. When I initially got involved into the financial services industry, I was taught something called the 3 tax boxes. So this really made a lot of sense to me, and it really educated me a little bit more because I had a job before I got involved into financial services. I went down to the local HR and I spoke with the lady who had blue hair. She made less money than I did, but she proceeded to tell me why my 401k was the best thing since sliced bread. Now I'm coachable. I started putting in about 15% of my paycheck into my 401k, and I was only getting a 3% match on that 401k. What I found out later was that I should have been taking advantage of the match across the board. Without a doubt, if you get a match, you should be taking advantage of it. But anything over the match, I should have been putting into another tax bucket. Let's get started. So there's 3 different tax boxes. There's taxed now, there's taxed later, and then there's tax exempt. Tax now is going to include interest-bearing checking accounts, such as like a money market account, savings accounts, CDs, mutual funds, individual stock portfolios, nowadays cryptocurrency. We still don't know where that's going though, by the way. Speaking a little bit more broad, real estate transactions, there's 2 different types of capital gains taxes. There's something called short-term capital gains taxes, and there's something else called long-term capital gains taxes. Now, the government says to themselves, to these great Americans that are putting away money, and we need to give more incentive for those that put it away longer. It helps the economy to grow, of course. Now, mind you, there's 3 different enemies to your money. There's inflation, taxation, and of course, yourselves, procrastination. So we have to hedge taxation, of course, outpace inflation, absolutely, and absolutely stop procrastination. And the way that we do that is we want to develop a plan based on us. It's not a one-size-fits-all, of course, to save and invest money into one of these 3 different tax boxes. So in the first tax box, that is taxed now. Like I said before, short-term or long-term capital gains taxes. The way that it works is that if I invest into this tax box, I'm going to pay taxes on the investment returns. So that's on realized gains in whatever your investment is. So if I invested, let's say $10,000 into a mutual fund and it's made me a 10% rate of return, that would mean that my $10,000 would have returned $1,000 that year. If I realize the gain, meaning I pull it out of the market and I start to put it into my checking account, now I have realized the gain. So I would have to pay either a short-term or long-term capital gains tax on that $1,000. In tax box number 2, this is where a significant amount of American savings plans are held. These are called the tax later. The tax later most recently in 2020 has been changed. They have something called the 59.5 and 72 rule. Here's what it says. The government says, we love you so much, we're not going to make you pay taxes now, we're going to make you pay taxes later. To explain that further, let's just say we had an opportunity to invest into an apple orchard. We go down to the local liquor store, we pick up some penny seeds. They're pennies on the dollar. And we plant them into our soil. And over 30 years, it grows into this multi-million-dollar apple orchard. Would you rather pay taxes on the penny seeds that are less or the multi-million-dollar apple orchard which is more. Of course, less. Now, mind you, if you're getting a match on your 401k, absolutely take advantage of the match. It's free money. You might as well. But you do not want to pay taxes on the harvest. So in your tax later box, there's 401ks, there's 403bs for like teachers, there's 457s for like police officers and things of that nature. There's traditional IRAs, there's HEO plans, there's SEP IRAs. The list goes on and on and on and on. Deferred compensation packages, etc. Majority of these plans have that 59.5 rule and the 72 rule. So remember, you didn't pay taxes on the penny seeds, you're paying taxes on the harvest. So if you decide to pull any of your money out by the time you're 59.5, you're going to pay a 10% penalty on top of the regular income taxes in that particular year. The secondary rule, the 72 rule, says, again, the government says, we love you so much, we're not going to make you pay taxes now, we're going to wait to make you pay taxes, but if you don't take something called an RMD, required minimum distribution, out of your retirement account, you're going to be penalized 50% on top of regular income taxes, right when you might have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Not a good subject matter. This is the #1 tax penalty in the tax code. Let me explain more. RMDs, as you can see in this graph that I'm sharing with you, continually go up. So one year it may be 3.6%, the next year it may be 3.9%, the next year it may be 4.6%, etc., etc. All the way up until it's more than 50%. So if you have $1 million in your retirement account and you're forced to pull out required minimum distributions, at some point in time in the future, you will run out of money. Now, some of you may be asking yourself, what if I do run out of money? My mom and dad, they lived to be 100 years old. Or what if modern medicine is getting better? People are living longer, even with COVID being the #3 cause of death in 2020 and 21. I have an answer for you. It's something called an annuity. But we're not going to get into that at this particular time. So in tax bucket #2, since a majority of the United States has something called qualified plans, meaning they have not paid taxes on this qualified money so far, there's 4 significant facts that I'd like to share with you that will give you the impression that taxes are more than likely going to rise in the future. Fact #1 is our baby boomers. Between the years 1946 and 1964, a massive amount of babies were born. Make love, not war. So what was real popular back in the 60s and 70s? Besides pot, of course. Procter & Gamble, Gerber, Pampers, everything geared towards babies. The most schools were built. In the 80s and 90s, it didn't take rocket science to figure out that a majority of the baby boomers were now purchasing their first home and getting landscaping done inside of those homes. In the 2000s, 2010s, what happened? All of the baby boomers went to go and recapture their young lives and buy new Mustangs and Chargers that were recreated. Now, those baby boomers are now going to retire, and it creates a lot more danger fundamentally in the future. #2 big fact is our healthcare costs. They continue to rise. Ask anybody. #3 big danger in the future is going to be our Social Security program. They're starting to call it social insecurity. By the year 2034, our current Social Security program is going to be experiencing some massive cash deficiency. We need Social Security reform like oxygen right now. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat, liberal, or a Republican conservative, or Mickey Mouse. There needs to be Social Security reform across the board. And then #4 is going to be our U.S. debt. Now, the screen is going to share usdebtclock.org, which is a public site you can type in, and then you're going to type it in. And as you can see in the upper left-hand corner here, our U.S. debt is over $30 trillion and rising very aggressively. So with those 4 dangers in mind, would that give you the impression that taxes are rising a little bit or a lot? So why again would you want to pay taxes later on your 401k, 457, 403B or deferred compensation package? Wouldn't you rather have control over your taxes rather than no control over your taxes? So rather than talking about just concepts across the board, I'd rather get into the specific numbers. Numbers don't lie. People do. So in order for me to do that, I'm gonna have to take off my jacket and get crazy with you guys, roll up my sleeves, and really get to work when it comes to stretching out the numbers and how it may make sense to you. All right, so I know what you're asking yourself. You're saying to yourself, well, I get a match in my 401k. How does that make sense? I get a deduction now. My local smart guy tax person told me I should take the deduction right now this year. Let's look at that. Okay? Numbers don't lie, people do. What a match is, if you're wondering what specifically a match is, so let's just say I make $100,000 a year. I put 3% of my own money into my 401k plan, and the company is going to 100% match me dollar for dollar as much as I put in, up to 3%. That would mean that I am putting in $3,000 and the company is matching me $3,000, where I have $6,000 total going into my 401k plan, otherwise known as qualified money. Qualified money has not been taxed yet. Non-qualified money has been taxed. Let's just say I put that into this plan. Then there's 3 phases of qualified money. There's a contribution phase, there's a accumulation phase, and then there's a distribution phase. So if I put in $6,000 a year and I'm in a state and federal combined 30% tax bracket, which I'm rounding, I would be saving $1,800 this year. So over the next 30 years, I would have saved $54,000 in tax savings. But I've invested $180,000 over the last 30 years at an 8% interest rate. As it accumulates, I would have earned $751,520. Now, if you'd like to learn about your own specific situation, you can go to investor.gov right here in the link, and you can do your own computation. I'm going to round $751,000 to $750,000. Now, if I take a 7% distribution 30 years later, let's say I'm 35 young years old, I've contributed for 30 years into my 401k plan, now I'm 65, I have $750,000, and I'm ready to, by definition, retire. I'd like to pull out 7% in distribution. That's going to be rounded $50,000 if taxes don't rise. Now, I've already gone through the 4 big reasons why I believe that taxes are rising in the future. But let's just say they don't rise, they stay the same, and I continue at a 30% tax bracket, state and federal. That would mean that I would be distributing $50,000, paying 30% in taxes, netting $35,000, and then paying the IRS $15,000 on my $50,000. If I collected for 15 years, life expectancy doesn't change, I live to be 80 years old, I would have paid $225,000 in taxes. So let me get this straight. I have saved $54,000 in today's tax dollars to pay $225,000 in tomorrow's tax dollars. So again, contribution, accumulation, and distribution, you're paying $225,000 to save $54,000. Wouldn't you like to know how to have control over your taxes versus no control of your taxes? Let's finish the video. So was that pretty educational? Contribution, accumulation, and then the distribution. I don't know about you guys, but I was blown away when I found out about my own 401k program, and I said to myself, man, I need to change what I'm currently doing to change what I'm currently getting. In the third tax box, this is where I really started to absorb some of the information and apply some of the concepts that made sense for me and my family. In tax box number 3, this is the tax exempt. These are your Roth IRAs. These are your cash value life insurance policies. These are also municipal bonds, as well as 529s for children. Roth IRA was created in the late 90s. What's great about a Roth IRA is that you're taxed on your penny seeds, your money grows exponentially, and now you can take out income from that account in the distribution phase, income tax free. In a tax-free retirement strategy or a cash value life insurance policy that's properly designed, by the way, don't let the smooth taste fool you. There's a lot of insurance agents that will sell you the tax-free retirement strategy, but overwhelm the client with a ton of fees. In this strategy, it works kind of like a burrito. You have the rice and the beans and the sour cream and cilantro. I'm getting hungry. And then you have the tortilla that covers this burrito. The tortilla is the life insurance. The components in the life insurance is what makes it grow. Now, if you don't fund your burrito properly, it's going to end up turning into a quesadilla. And at some point in time, it's not a good structured plan. You have to fund it properly. But again, it grows exponentially. You have insurance coverage inside of the plan. And at the same time, God forbid you go down with a heart attack, stroke, or cancer, it can definitely help you out. 529 plan is for children. If your child does not go to school, though, you may pay taxes on the penny seeds and the harvest potentially. So I'm sure you learned a lot in this educational video. It was fast moving. Mind you, I do a lot of different financial plans. I've been in the industry for almost 2 decades. I've seen people that buy term and invest the difference in a Roth. I've seen people that say, no way, I'm getting a permanent insurance policy and plugging away as much money as possible. I see some people that say, I don't want life insurance, I just want an investment. I have others that invest into real estate, but say to themselves, man, I need a heavy life insurance policy just in case my debt has to be paid. But across the board, education is what's most important when developing a plan that's right for you and your family. This is not a one-size-fits-all. So if you'd like to learn more, please reach out to the person that shot you this video or get with a fellow financial architect in your local area. If you don't know where that is, you can reach out to us on our website here, tfawealthplanning.com. And don't forget, subscribe, like, comment, and share our YouTube video.